Welcome, sneakerheads, to Geek Salad's Retro Movie Reviews from the Geek Salad Podcast. I'm Andy.
And I'm Mike.
And tonight we continue down this long road of Andy's favorite movies of 2023, landing on one that might seem a little odd for me to say is one of my favorite movies of the year. On Letterboxd, I rated it 4.5 stars, and that is the Ben Affleck directed Air. Damn, I was inspired by this movie. It really, it's one of those things that you know how it ends.
Yeah.
But the movie does such a great job, not only keeping you in suspense, but giving you a reason to stick with this story and the whys behind it. And why is this, we're not just watching a movie about a sneaker.
And it does a great job actually making you care about, Matt Damon's character. And surprisingly, Jason
Bateman's character. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, when you first introduce him, you think, oh, this guy's just got, he's the, corporate sleazeball. He doesn't, but then they have that quiet, just one-on-one scene. And you're like, oh shit, there's a lot more to this guy.
There are so, this film, I got so many great one-on-one scenes in it.
Yeah.
Sonny and Rob having that conversation about Rob talking about how he gets to be a dad for 4 hours a week.
Yeah.
And it's about the sneakers. And, his daughter loves the sneakers. And he's trying to translate that into, I just want to show her how much I love her. While I can give her the free sneakers, it's always a great, it's just great to be with her, and this is you're kind of taking us all with you, sink or swim.
Yeah, and when he says even if I get fired, I'm still going to be bringing her the sneakers.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just the kind of it because before that, Sonny really didn't have. He knew it would affect him, but he didn't realize that his actions were going to cover everybody in the department.
Yeah, everybody in the basketball department would be affected by this. The scene that Sonny has with Dolores Jordan.
Yeah.
When he drives to the house.
Yeah.
And he immediately he's very friendly with Michael's father. And then he goes in, but he talks business in a way where he was going to make them stand out from the other two. I love the whole thing where he's discussing here's how your meeting at Converse is going to go.
Yeah.
They're gonna talk about three, Michael reminds us of 3 players. And then you're going to go to Adidas and I go, hello, Mrs. Jordan.
I love when
I'll do it
she
regular.
cuts out the German accent immediately.
His name was Adolf. 80 Das Adidas.
We have pictures of him in the Nazi youth.
He was in the Hitler Youth. What's crazy to me about this movie, just to sidestep these amazing scenes, is, and actually Pete, the guy who designs the sneaker, brings it up. It feels like it's always been there.
Yeah.
And I've always felt like Nike was the top producer of sneakers, and I didn't realize. And when these came, I was a teenager. I was just becoming a teenager when these things came out. And I always thought Nike was the top sneaker brand. I didn't realize they were number 3.
I didn't realize how close they were coming to just canning the entire basketball shoe department.
Yeah, well, because they were a running shoe. And, listening to Ben Affleck, who, by the way, is so awesome as Phil Knight, I loved it. I loved how he shows up late to the meeting because he was told to do that. And he's just he's still got to kind of pull the CEO card.
I love his reaction when they tell him that they're going to cover the fines.
Yeah.
He's like, huh?
Yeah, fuck it. It's not going to happen anyway. But it's just funny because, well, first of all, thinking about Nike, like I primarily only wear Nike running shoes. Those are my go-to sneaker. It just is. They're the most comfortable. Their sizing for a size 13 foot like mine is it's constant. So I always know what I'm getting with them. That's why I like Nike. I used to wear Chuck Taylor's, the Converse All-Star, which is crazy to me to think, oh yeah, we're the number one we are the basketball sneaker of the NBA. And I'm like, it has to be another shoe. It cannot be the Chuck Taylor. That's what, back in the old days when basketball was white, that's what they used to wear, with the Chuck Taylor All-Stars that have no arch support, no ankle support.
I think what most amazed me about that meeting that they had, was when they were like, "Oh, we got Magic, Jordan, Larry Bird, and who's the third one?"
It's Magic, Jordan, Dr. J,
and they're like, I mean, he's gonna be number 4, but like, no, it's like it's just like you're like hearing our 2024 selves are like, no, he's gonna be better than all 3 of them.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. That's the thing too, and I love how they broke that down. That he'll be mentioned in the same breath as these 3, whereas what Sonny wanted to do was, create the sneaker around the individual player.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, just on a basic marketing standpoint from that era, it's, hey, Moses Malone, wear these shoes.
Yeah.
Larry Bird, wear these shoes. You can have, they've got to be more than 50% white, but we've got the green, we've got the green stars on them. Purple, or I think maybe they were going gold or blue for Magic at that point. That's pretty much the only thing they would do. They would just change a color scheme on there, virtually the same shoe. Just that they would get an endorsement from an athlete. Whereas, when you think about the Air Jordan line, first of all, the Air Jordan line no longer even has the Nike swoosh on it. It's got that, it's got the Michael, going up.
Yeah, created by that guy too. I had no idea.
What's funny is that Pete, the guy who created that shoe, left for Adidas like a couple of years later.
And he passed away like just right before they started filming this movie.
Yeah, Pete Moore.
Yeah,
but I loved his. It's just great that there's a basement where they create the shoe. Yeah. Where they create. It's the lab, and he's got the guy on the, he's got the guy on the treadmill trying out the shoes and everything like that. But just this design and being able to implement like that Air Soul design that they had, we're just going to put that low to the ground into the shoe, the way that Michael Jordan wears them. And the Jordans they're still around today.
And Pete absolutely coined the phrase Air Jordan.
That's always going to be under dispute. That's, I mean, yeah, I thought that was hilarious. It's like, shit.
Dude, when he called up Sonny after Sonny met up with the parents.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of the funniest calls, the most expletive-ridden call I've ever heard.
The fact that that there's more than one herpes simplex is just... I'll see you on Monday. Fuck you!
Their relationship was brilliant.
Oh, yeah. I loved it, too. It's very, like... It's interesting seeing where Affleck was getting a lot of his directing influences from. And you could definitely tell that there's a little bit of, like, Damon's work with Scorsese in terms of some of this back-and-forth banter, especially when it comes to comedy. That Falk and Sonny have. Some great stuff there. Just overall, I mean, I love what you told me while you were watching the movie last night, that it's really nice to be able to like Chris Tucker in a movie.
Yeah. Chris Tucker and honestly Marlon Wayans as well.
And Marlon Wayans, I mean, he has the one scene.
Yeah.
But it was really good because it was subdued. Chris Tucker was just like, it's the standard Chris Tucker persona, just dialed down to 8.
Yeah.
And it worked. I liked him kind of coming in almost as a ringer for the Jordans.
Yeah, like he kind of pushed it a little bit up to 9 for that scene in the board meeting. But even then, it worked because that's kind of how he was supposed to be connecting with the Jordans. He's just over the top.
And I think also, thinking back on that, if you think about the other 2 boards, the Adidas and the Converse boards, all white.
Yeah.
All white. So being able to bring Howard in there and to be, like, hey, we are still a small company. We made $1 billion a year on running shoes, but and was able to get Phil his amazing, jelly grape, his grape colored Porsche.
Yeah, that wasn't a good looking Porsche. I'm sorry, it wasn't.
Oh, well, it's the look of the 80s. That whole bit with, that and his, it allows him to buy so many, all those nut hugging running shorts that he wears.
Oh, when he walked in that tracksuit.
The tracksuit, the glasses would show up on the poster.
Yeah.
It really, they nailed the look of this in a way that I feel like a lot of movies that take place in the 80s don't do. I feel like a lot of movies of the 80s are all over the place. It's just like the aesthetic is the 80s.
Yeah.
They nailed that 1984 aesthetic.
The only, I do have a few nitpicks about this one. One of which is, at least for like the first hour, maybe hour and 15 minutes of the movie, when they want to transition from one scene to another, they just throw in a whole bunch of scenes of like shots of random things from the 80s. I'm like, okay, I get it. It's in the 80s. What does this have to do with the basketball shoes thing?
I think it's almost like they want to remind you that this is like real life 80s, not like this a movie 80s. This is the real life.
Yeah, like when they were playing that football game that I mean, I'm sure you both had. I'm like,
couldn't tell. I didn't teach me a lick about the world of football, but had it.
I was like, great. What does this have to do with the movie?
Honestly, I commend them in terms of there were very few like visual anachronisms in this movie, especially because that is something that gets in my craw every time watching movies that are made about the 80s that weren't filmed in the 80s. The fact that they got the Ghostbusters thing in there and this takes place in August of 84 makes total sense.
It does. It's like, oh yeah, Ghostbusters, cool. That was a great movie. Doesn't have anything to do with this movie.
Yep.
It was just, hey, look, we're in the 80s. Moving on.
Understandable. They did have, it's like I caught one song that was an anachronism to this era, and it was All I Need Is a Miracle by Mike and the Mechanics.
Was that
86?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I love that song, though.
I do too. And this is the thing. And you mentioned this. You texted me. It's like, man, this soundtrack is right up your alley. You're damn straight, because it used so much of the stuff we never hear. When you want to get nostalgic 80s in a movie, oh, okay, hey, let's just hit the button here. Jump is coming up. It's like, great. I like Jump, but
yeah, I texted you that when I was about 20 minutes into the movie, because even at that point I was like, oh, this is completely up Brandy Street. Yeah.
So when he goes to North Carolina and In a Big Country comes in, here's me watching the movie the first time. I'm like, this too.
I knew it. I was
one of my favorite songs of all time. It shows up in this movie. But that's the thing about this movie is that it really, we've seen, we saw a lot of, last year there were a lot of historical biopics.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff that takes place in the past and tells the story about such and such and such and such. this movie succeeds because, first of all, it's very different from, let's just look at the life or a small period of time of this one person. Air, while it focuses on Sonny Vaccaro, it's a team effort.
Yeah.
It's a team effort between Rob and Sonny and Howard and Phil and Dolores.
Yeah, and Pete.
And Pete. Yeah, oh yeah, sorry, Pete. It really just it's so gratifying to watch that. And again, it's that thing. You're on Tinderhooks like, oh my God, how are they gonna do this? Oh man, all right, they're gonna meet, they're gonna give him the 20, the 250K. Oh, he wants a cut. They're never gonna go for that.
And then when Sonny actually just has that whole speech about they're gonna build you up and then they're gonna try and tear you down. And it's like showing like all those like future like newspaper articles and clips, and like that thing about because honestly I did not realize that Michael Jordan's father was murdered.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe what, like 6-7 years after this?
93.
Yeah. I no idea.
Yeah. No, and that was a big thing. They didn't know. I don't think they ever solved that murder either.
I think they did. I looked it up afterwards. In fact, I think one of the guys that was caught for it was just paroled a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay. But it's just that the story itself is not so much about how an athlete gets screwed over by an endorsement deal. It's about a group of people who will build up the everlasting legacy of somebody that they see utmost potential in. And that scene at the very beginning with Sonny talking to Rob about, like, we've all seen the place. Like, we've been looking at it wrong.
Yeah.
They didn't go to Worthy. They went to the freshman. Yeah. And look how cool he is. This is the biggest shot of his life.
And he's just sitting back.
Yep. Breezed it.
And even, as soon as he gets the ball, he's up.
Yeah. And even bringing in, because it could have been very easy for them to just tell the story, this was all Sonny's idea, to bring in the Arthur Ashe tennis racket, the AMP racket. It was great because it adds a lot of authenticity to the storytelling of this.
Yeah.
What I love too is that it doesn't play a lot of tricks with the overall narrative. It doesn't. There really aren't any flashbacks. The flash forwards are effective for that one scene.
Yeah.
Where Sonny just goes off script.
Yeah.
And it works really well. I'll be honest. We're talking about it now. This is in my top 5 of this year. I like this movie a whole lot more than I liked Oppenheimer.
I haven't seen Oppenheimer in
yeah.
3 hours.
On my COVID binge. I legitimately did a Barbenheimer on my COVID binge.
So did my girlfriend. So did Jonna.
Oh, she did?
Yeah. I do have another slight nitpick about this one.
Okay.
It's like this is it's a very small, intimate story. I mean, honestly, the cast is not that big in this one. Where the hell did the $70 to $90 million budget go to? That is an insane budget for a movie that doesn't look like it cost $70 to $90 million.
So I think what ended up happening was that they paid top dollar for that soundtrack.
Yeah.
There were at least 20 high-end licensable songs in there. I also feel too. I mean, you got to pay. I mean, you got to pay Affleck. Affleck is an Academy Award-winning director. Matt Damon is an Academy Award-winning screenwriter. Chris Tucker at one point made $20 million simply by being in movies that said Rush Hour.
Yeah, that's the only other movie I've seen him in, so it was so nice to be able to like him again.
Oh, it was just wonderful. He was almost unrecognizable. It wasn't for his voice.
Yeah.
I almost didn't recognize him. And that's another thing I loved about this movie. So I love the fact that nobody in this movie looked cut.
Yeah.
If you think about it, I'm watching this movie as a 51-year-old man who, my physical peak is long in the past. I need to get back to the gym. But
Dude.
Watching Jason Bourne and friggin' Batman, just like, ugh. And I feel good about that.
The scene at the end where Sonny puts on the suit, he's like starts jogging. He's like, you know what? No. It's like, I feel you, man. I am so there.
That is the only time in the entire movie. Also, you could tell it was a fat suit, or it was like it was a fake belly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was just it was a pickup shot that they had to do, and they just didn't match it. It's almost like you've never seen the show Schitt's Creek, but Chris Elliott had a fake belly for a lot of his stuff, and you could kind of tell it almost looked like a pillow the way it cut. But no, I just in their face, they wore it in their faces. I don't know how much of that was makeup, but looking in their faces, Affleck's wig. Oh my God.
Yeah.
If you didn't know any better, and 25 years of Damon and Affleck, and just the wig, awful hair, among all his other terrible choices. But getting back to the budget, this was not supposed to be theatrically released. It was.
I can see that.
Amazon was exclusively going to launch it on Prime as a Prime exclusive, and the people were so ecstatic about give it a limited run. Limited runs cost money. Advertising, print, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I still think the majority of the budget went towards a top tier. You've got a top shelf cast. Viola Davis.
Yeah.
That was a Michael Jordan thing. I want Viola Davis playing he had no involvement, but I want Viola Davis playing my mother.
Honestly, I mean, yeah, if I'm Michael Jordan, that's what I want as my mother as well.
I want to bring up another thing too about Michael Jordan's inclusion in this movie. Brilliantly edited that you never see his face. Even if he's right there, there's always something there to obscure him.
And the only even time you hear him speak is on the phone at the end.
Yeah. So it is I love this movie. I really do love this movie. Now, my big question to you is, because it got a Golden Globe nomination for Best Picture, did not win. What if this movie got released later in 2023 as opposed to its April release? Do you think it would have more awards traction this year, given all the stuff that's out there right now? Do you think this one would have any more traction than it kind of did?
I mean, I would say Best Supporting Actress for Viola Davis, but
yeah,
she's really not in the movie enough.
She's not.
That she's in, but
it's a tough call. I feel like at worst it's on that bottom 5 of the top 10 of the 10 Oscar nominees for Best Picture. Yeah. Maybe editing, maybe cinematography. That's about it. I don't see Damon, based on the other performances that are out there this year.
Genuinely, I mean, obviously, my knowledge of the other performances out there is rather limited, but I would totally see Bateman up for supporting.
I could in a weaker year, absolutely,
because
it just simply is not going to happen this year. It would not happen this year. The movie is just it's kind of an afterthought. What's that?
His character surprised the hell out of me. I really, really loved what they did with him.
It did. It really did. And I think Jason Bateman is, to me, one of the biggest surprises in the last 20 years for actors I grew up watching when he was a child.
Yeah.
And now
He is so amazing.
Yeah, he's incredible. He's a really incredible actor, and he melds so well with those guys. He melds well with Damon and Affleck, and he seems like he belongs. Same thing with Chris Tucker, because when you think about like the kind of the troupe that Jason Bateman runs with, and Chris Tucker runs with, and Damon and Affleck run with, it's kind of nice to see them together. Yeah. Overall, my 5.5 stars stand, my 4.5 stars stands. Nitpicks are nitpicks. No movie last year was perfect. I wouldn't call anything a masterpiece, but this, quite honestly, might be giving the other movie we're going to be talking about either this week or next week, or the week after, a run for its money in terms of the best movie of the year for me.
I love this movie. I probably give it a 4 stars.
Okay, fair.
4.5. Because there's just a few nitpicks that just why did they do that? But other than that, it is. I was a little hesitant about watching this because honestly, biographical like movies like this, not usually my cup of tea, but this one was really good.
Yeah,
I like how it's a little bit more smaller, a little bit more intimate. I think that really helped it a lot.
Well, do you remember over the summer when we were having the conversation on the podcast about like movies that we want to see made?
Yeah.
And I brought up I want to see a movie about OK Soda, and I wanted to kind of be the inverse of Air, where it's a fool's journey the entire way, but that bright-eyed, bushy-tailed optimism is still going to get them to a finish line. Not the finish line, but a finish line.
So if you take Air and Ed Wood, right there.
Pretty much.
That's OK Soda right there.
Oh, that's another thing. And I just kind of like the whole thing of Phil Knight having his philosophies written out. And then those are his parting words to everybody who left his office with some kind of business quote. It's so great too, because knowing now kind of like the shitheadedness of a lot of big corporate, mega minds, that this guy who sold shoes out of his car, and created this $1 billion company, he does it because he kind of thinks he needs to do it. That's the impression I got from it.
I also loved it at the end when when Sonny goes to him, it's like the only way we're getting it is if we give him a percentage. He's like, because and really the Phil that we've seen throughout the movie up to that point, that Phil would probably say no, there's no way, no fucking way.
Yeah.
But then he's just like, fuck it, we'll do it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's how I built this movie, built this company.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was so cool.
Well, it's the same thing with, the whole reason why he approved the meeting in the first place and went for a run. And it really worked out well, because up until that point, he was terrified of the board.
Yeah.
So I love that. I really enjoy that. I also love, too, the whole bit about Pete and the skateboard.
Oh, yeah.
$1 billion company. He's working a skateboard. Maybe he's having a midlife crisis. Pete, what's the deal with the skateboard? I'm having a midlife crisis. And I'm so glad you watched, because I really kind of feel like you would have never watched this movie had it not been on this list. And I'm so glad that you got the chance to watch it. It really is worth it. And it's, for me, I feel kind of bad because I fall into franchise movies a lot because, they're readily available. I can just pop them on. But when I find something like this that is an absolute gem, I'm on board. I really am. I truly do love this movie.
Yeah, and when we were going through this list and all, and figuring out what movies we were going to do this month, we were like, we're going to do what did we just do?
We just did Across the Spider-Verse.
Thank you. Yeah, yes, we did Across the Spider-Verse, Guardians of the Galaxy, and what we're doing next week, which you can probably already guess what it is. And,
well, yeah, and I'll spoil it now because I think we're done with this review. But we either next week or the week after, depending on really depending on how awake I'm going to be in between performances and stuff, we are going to be talking about Barbie.
Yeah.
A movie that could not get over how much I loved.
Mm.
And we will go into more detail either this week or next week or the week after.
And I know John loved it, so.
Oh, you're gonna. I mean, it's on Max. It really is worth a watch. But anyway, folks, thank you so much for joining us. We want to know, what are your thoughts on Air? Is this a movie that if you haven't seen it and you have Amazon Prime, it's free. Go fucking watch it. It's so good.
And honestly, it's like it's just under 2 hours long, so it's not a long watch.
No, it's not.
I was worried this would be like a 2 hour, 45-minute watch. I was like, oh, it's only like an hour and 54 minutes or so.
And it uses its time efficiently.
Yeah.
Very efficiently. Because I watched some of it on my break today, and I was like, I have an hour break, and it's just, oh my God, the hour's up.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'll watch an hour today, and then if I'm struggling, I'll watch the last hour. No, I'm blew with the whole thing. It was a quick watch, and it was a very, very effective watch.
Awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I really am. So, yeah, we want to know, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Air? Where does it rank in your year end if you have seen it? Leave a polite comment below. If you're new to the channel, hi, welcome. Happy New Year. And if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button because we do this every week. We are going to continue with our retro reviews of 2023. It was last year, so technically it's retro. We're going to be looking at it's down here somewhere. We are going to we're going to talk about Barbie next week, and who knows, if we get a spare, maybe we'll throw another movie in there. I got two in mind because I did see one of my favorite movies of 2023 last week. I'll tell you about that off air, Mike, because it's quite good.
Wait a thing. I think I remember which one it is. I'm just
we're not revealing it yet. I'll talk about it off air. But yeah, so also please give this video a thumbs up. It helps us in the algorithm. Also, Mike and I host a little podcast called Geek Salad. You check that out wherever you get your podcast. So make sure that you are getting in on all the Geek Salad goodness. Stop that.
It's all right. Snuck up on me.
You can also follow us on the socials. We are at Geek Salad Podcast on Facebook and at Geek Salad Radio on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Threads. So check us out there. I really got to get back on my Blue Sky game because I've been awful at it. But neither here nor there. So thank you all for joining us. Check out our back catalog if you have not watched any of these. Thank you again for joining us for the first time. And we will see you next week when we discuss Barbie. Until then, I'm Andy.
I'm Mike.
Go forth and be nerdful. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.